Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. By viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Tuesday, January 11th. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. A staggering new record number of COVID cases, not just in our county, but statewide as well. Here at home, local health officials report record numbers over the weekend. Cases peaked on Friday with just over 19,000, nearly twice the previous daily high. In California, more than 6 million cumulative cases have been reported, less than 2 months after hitting the 5 million mark. It's the latest milestone as the Omicron variant continues its record-smashing race across the state. Here's KPBS health reporter Matt Hoffman.
The hospitals are trying their best, but when the community isn't responding, that's really tough. It's really tough on the healthcare workers.
Scripps Health Chief Medical Officer Dr. Ghazala Sharif says as of Tuesday, their hospitals have 312 COVID positive patients. Now, compared to this time last year, Scripps had more than 500, but numbers are continuing to increase, and it's unclear when things could slow down.
Last time we peaked on January 8th, that was when all the restrictions were in place. We don't have that right now. So right now, we're climbing on the hospitalizations, and everybody's still out doing the social activities, not distancing, not wearing their mask. And so it's so highly infectious, twice as infectious as Delta. And so this may just keep going for a while unless we really just pull back a little.
There are nearly 1,100 San Diegans hospitalized countywide with the virus. That's compared to nearly 1,800 this time last year.
Our, numbers are now only second to the surge that we had back in early 2021.
Sharp Healthcare Chief Operating Officer Brett McLean says his modeling shows a potential hospitalization peak in about 10 days.
But, I heard someone say once, all models are great, but none of them are correct.
Even though hospitalizations are not as high as they were a year ago, this surge is particularly difficult because hundreds of healthcare workers are out with COVID. To help relieve some of that, the state recently issued guidance allowing staff who have tested positive and are asymptomatic to return to work right away, something that not everyone agrees with.
We don't support that.
Very disturbed by that announcement that went out, bringing people back on day one. Even if they're asymptomatic, still means that they can infect others.
Healthcare systems are having to cancel and delay some procedures, but both Sharif and McLean hope that the state does not opt to cancel all elective surgeries.
We are managing literally on a day-to-day basis the cases that we can keep going. On the ambulatory side, we're trying to keep those going so we don't delay care. We had a patient last surge who was the only sole driver in the household. He was delayed for his cataract surgery. And, that really limits people. So we don't want to cut back on that if we have to.
Sharif says 80% of the Scripps patients are unvaccinated, and no one who has gotten their booster shot is currently in the intensive care unit. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
Students in most of the South Bay's school districts returned to in-person classes today after their holiday break. As we've seen, the new year continues to bring COVID challenges to schools across the county. KPBS education reporter MG Perez says in one district, teachers are planning a walkout while parents keep looking for more testing.
The playground is full of young students again here at Rosebank Elementary in the Chula Vista Elementary School District. While the students play, their teachers are working with an expired contract, and they're not happy about the district's latest offer.
We love our kids, but we need to feel that we are valued.
Michelle Kohler is president of the union, representing 1,400 teachers and other school staff. The union is distributing this flyer, encouraging members to walk out of school on time every day, starting Wednesday. No more after-school meetings, planning, or volunteering until the district offers a reasonable pay raise and new contract.
We don't feel like the district deserves our, time if they're not compensating us for it. feel disrespected.
Many parents feel overwhelmed as COVID cripples their family routines and threatens their health.
Han salido muchos casos positivos.
Maria Garcia spent the first day of school after the holiday break with her children here at the Chula Vista Elementary School District Testing Center, a place that has processed thousands of rapid antigen and PCR tests since last summer. The COVID home test kits promised by the State Department of Public Health are slowly trickling their way down to South Bay school districts. But even families lucky enough to get them have plenty of questions about what happens next. How's your daughter doing?
She's doing fine. She's in school today.
William Smith's 11-year-old daughter tested negative, but his 16-year-old son tested positive twice using the home tests over the weekend.
We're all in the same household, but he tested positive and the rest of us are fine. So we're just keeping up on it.
As for the teachers' contract negotiations, the Chula Vista Elementary School District interim superintendent said in a written statement that the district is unaware of any plans for a teacher walkout, and he made no comment on the negotiations.
Quedarnos en casa. Quedarnos en casa encerraditos, ahí estamos más seguros.
Maria Garcia says she and her family are staying home where they are safe and secure. Patrick Smith and his dad will stay home and wait, too.
I haven't really had any symptoms of the COVID, so I don't really know why I became positive, so I hope I'm negative.
Back to school to another semester in the pandemic. MG Perez, KPBS News.
And it was also back to class for students in the Sweetwater Union High School District. The district says it took a number of steps to ensure a safe return to in-person learning, including distributing COVID self-testing kits. Students are also being reminded to wear their masks, wash their hands, and practice social distancing. Sweetwater is also continuing weekly testing clinics that rotate among campuses.
We have been doing that since the beginning of school at various school sites for our students, our families, and our staff. We're doing everything in our power to keep our students and staff safe.
The district is just a few weeks away from implementing a vaccine mandate, which was approved by the board in December. Employees must submit proof of vaccination or file for an exemption by February 1st. It's still unclear what the mandate will mean for students. And COVID is causing even more trouble for the SDSU men's basketball team. Infections on the SDSU team forced the postponement of this weekend's game at New Mexico. That's on top of this week's game at Wyoming being scrapped. SDSU last played Saturday against Colorado State. That game was a reshuffling of the schedule due to COVID cases throughout the Mountain West Conference. Governor Gavin Newsom was in the Central Valley today to promote the health care portion of his budget proposal. He says it will expand access and be more affordable regardless of immigration status. KPBS Speak City Heights reporter Jacob Ayer has a reaction from an immigrant rights advocate in San Diego.
In a $286 billion budget proposal outlined Monday, Newsom highlighted free health care for all undocumented immigrants in the state as a top priority. Dulce Garcia, executive director of Border Angels, says undocumented immigrants will no longer have to ignore health problems out of fear of owing thousands of dollars in medical bills or missing work.
Adding the younger folks onto this proposition and really including all undocumented immigrants to have access to medical care in San Diego County will mean that thousands of families will be able to see a doctor for regular checkups, diagnosis, and treatment.
The state began covering undocumented immigrants 26 years old and under in 2019 and those 55 and older last year. Now, Newsom wants state lawmakers to cover the remainder of people, those 27 through 54 years of age, starting no sooner than January 1st, 2024. Lupe Flores of the Chicano Federation says she's celebrating the historic proposal.
I think this will increase trust, and that's very important with the undocumented population that, now they can go get these preventative care kind of appointments or even have access to doctors, and, they're not going to be as scared.
The most recent expansion to cover those ages 50 and up will eventually cost taxpayers about $1.3 billion per year.
We know that the governor is looking at implementation in 2024, and so that's why we're going to be pushing for implementation sooner than later, because the need is here today. With this variant, there's still people at risk, there's still people dying.
Newsom plans to start the program with $614 million in funding. Every year after, the price will be more than $2 billion. At this point, it's unclear how Newsom plans to pay for the additional healthcare costs. And this is a first draft of the budget. It will be revised in May. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
A Chula Vista man reached a life-saving milestone today, donating his 100th gallon of blood. As KPBS reporter Kitty Alvarado shows us, his donation comes at a critical time.
David Carroll just arrived for his regular visit to the San Diego Blood Bank in Chula Vista. He donates platelets every 2 weeks. But this visit is not typical. You see, today, David is donating his 100th gallon of blood. That means he's done this over 500 times.
Super donor, okay, that just sort of lit my fire up. I said, oh, all right, super donor.
But 100 isn't just a number or a milestone. His donations save lives. The way he sees it, one of those lives he saved has surely given back to him and others.
The donors get to give and the recipients get to receive, and things that I don't know that they've done that have benefited me, and we all benefit.
Gina Sorensen from Chula Vista donates regularly too.
I've probably donated 20 to 30 times over my life, not as many as David over there. Something to strive for.
Never too late to be a guardian.
Their donations come at a critical time. For the first time ever, the American Red Cross declared a national blood crisis. Dr. Ghazala Sharif, Scripps Health Chief Medical Officer, says she's worried if this continues, it will cost lives.
We had 2 patients at the same time who needed massive transfusion protocols, and literally we had to scramble trying to get blood from one place to the other. That is not sustainable.
Claudine Van Gonka with the San Diego Blood Bank says every community is struggling for donors because of COVID and flu season.
So to have David come out and donate his triple platelets right now is very, very important, and we're very thankful for that.
She says donating is safe, but if you've had COVID or have been exposed, you must wait 4 weeks to donate blood. However, there's no waiting period if you've had the COVID vaccine.
You're unable to get COVID through blood transfusions. COVID is a respiratory virus.
And as a thank you, David received a special recognition. He will also get to update his 75-gallon sweatshirt and become the 37th member of the Guardian Circle. But the best gift is priceless, because every 2 seconds, somebody somewhere in the U.S. needs blood to survive, like 6-year-old Quincy, who just got through beating leukemia and needed platelets and blood transfusions with every cancer treatment. His mom, Teresa Bergdahl, is grateful.
There's just not really anything else that I could do but give you a virtual humongous hug and thank you so much for caring about people that you don't even know.
At one level, that's the whole point, of being able to give, is that it helps somebody else live.
Kitty Alvarado, KPBS News.
A new gun safety ordinance got final approval today from the San Diego County Board of Supervisors. It updates definitions regarding firearms to include unserialized ghost guns and parts. The ordinance prohibits the possession or distribution of parts without serial numbers, as well as the 3D printing of firearms or parts. It also requires the safe storage of firearms. Local Republican and Democratic lawmakers want more transparency when it comes to the placement of sexually violent predators. State Senators Brian Jones and Ben Hueso are supporting a bill called the SAFE Act. In recent months, communities they represent, like Borrego Springs and Rancho Bernardo, pushed back on supervised release of offenders. The bill would introduce several reforms, like a cap on how many offenders can be placed in a given community and more emphasis on public safety when those decisions are made. President Joe Biden is pushing ahead with his voting rights agenda. It comes as Democrats are facing pressure to pass 2 pieces of legislation opposed by nearly all Republicans on Capitol Hill. Daryl Forges explains.
President Biden and Vice President Harris using the bully pulpit from Atlanta to push voting rights.
Pass the Freedom to Vote Act. Pass it now.
Speaking in the former district of the late Congressman and champion of voting rights, John Lewis, Biden argues the nation is at a turning point.
It's about all of us. It's about the people. It's about America. Hear me plainly. The battle for the soul of America is not over.
The president also pushing to change filibuster rules in the Senate, something he needs to help get the rest of his agenda passed.
Today, I'm making it clear, to protect our democracy, I support changing the Senate rules, whichever way they need to be changed to prevent a minority of senators from blocking action on voting rights.
Nearly all Republicans and even some Democrats disagree.
The filibuster is what makes the Senate hopefully work when it's supposed to work.
There is mounting pressure for the Biden administration and Congress to pass voting rights legislation. Voting rights activists boycotting Biden and Harris's visit to Atlanta, saying now is not the time for a speech. It's time for action.
It is important to recognize the significance of this moment and how frustrated those of us who have been working diligently on the ground after election, and here we are a year later, and they're still not voting rights.
In Atlanta, Daryl Forges, KPBS News.
One day soon, you may be driving on the interstate and pull past a truck and notice that there's no one driving it. A San Diego company is working to make that a reality. KPBS science and technology reporter Thomas Fudge shows us how robo-trucks could strengthen the American supply chain and maybe threaten the livelihoods of truckers.
This is the mailman that was driving, you can see.
UCSD robotics professor Henrik Christensen points out the computer system in a small vehicle that's been delivering mail at UC San Diego without a driver to guide it. Driverless vehicles like this one are becoming more common, and Christensen says the new technology, coupled with overloaded supply chains and a shortage of truck drivers, are putting driverless trucks in the sights of a lot of companies.
We have this massive need for getting more out of the ports, getting it on the roads. That's where we're seeing these so we've seen multiple new companies come up that are actually working on this technology, not only TuSimple, Aurora, GM, Tesla is promising this.
But let's stick with that San Diego startup, TuSimple. Its driverless run last month from a rail yard in Tucson to a distribution center in Phoenix was a first for the company and, they say, a first for the industry. But working with partners like UPS, the company is already delivering goods with its autonomous trucks, provided a human safety driver is present. Pat Dillon is the chief financial officer of TuSimple.
The vision of TuSimple is that from a major freight location, like a port, like a rail yard, like a distribution center, we can take our custom-built trucks that will have no driver in it to take a journey that could be 100 miles or it could be 1,000 miles. And go from one freight location to another freight location.
The idea that robo-trucks would be the spear point of self-driving technology makes sense to UCSD professor Christensen. He says driving on highways is the easiest application for self-driving vehicles. And given the choice between trusting a human or trusting a robot at the wheel of a truck, the professor's view is pretty clear.
The drivers get tired from these long hauls, and at the same time, you might not be aware of this, but when you have autonomous driving trucks, they actually save fuel. So even from sort of a green perspective, it makes sense. It's no surprise, really, but if you think about it, computers are actually better drivers than people.
Trucks park side by side at this truck stop in Otay Mesa. Truckers stop here for fuel, a shower, and some rest. Some of these drivers are resigned to the future automation of the trucking industry, but they don't share the view that computers are better drivers than they are. Ron Caplet, who hails from Pennsylvania, says he's been driving a truck for 30 years.
I think it's the way the industry is going to go because of the lack of drivers that we do have in it, but I don't particularly care for it.
Why do you not care for it?
I just think it's going to be unsafe for a while. Not being able to, deal with the traffic conditions, the weather conditions. There's too many variables out here that maybe a computer won't be able to adjust to the same way. Maybe it will, I don't know, but it just seems like it won't be able to adjust like we can adjust.
About 10 miles away, students working to become registered truck drivers listen to an instructor at the United Truck Driving School in Mission Valley. The school training coordinator is Phil Harris, who says he thinks automation is great. Will it replace all truckers? No way, he says. But it'll change the nature of the job, making it necessary for truck drivers to understand the technology.
You're going to have someone in there as a technician probably. So I can see us being called pilots, navigators, technicians, overseers, whatever. Maybe we won't be called a driver, but that's why we'll always be in that truck.
Driverless technology still needs some attention. Again, here's Pat Dillon of Too Simple.
Things like redundant braking and steering, so that you always have the ability to control the vehicle, even if there is some type of a system degradation.
One student at the United Truck Driving School, Antoine Rackley, says if the job of being a truck driver changes, that's okay with him.
And I'm always open to learning, and all new advancement I'm trying to stay on top of. So it's, you know, you either keep up or you get left behind. So if that's the way the world changing, you got to change with it.
Thomas Fudge, KPBS News.
For the third year in a row, a new record has been set for hot ocean temperatures. An annual study published in the Journal of Advances in Atmospheric Sciences reports that the last 5 years have been the warmest since record-keeping started in the 1950s. Researchers put the blame on human activity because oceans absorb heat from the warming atmosphere.
As we check out our weather headlines, our strong gusty winds, our Santa Anas, will gradually ease tonight into tomorrow. And as that offshore flow gives it up, well, eventually we'll start to see some cooling spreading inland, especially on Thursday. And with an upper low approaching, there could be a couple of showers around Friday into the weekend. Certainly not etched in stone. Rather iffy. Well, checking on the winds, they're with us through the morning hours, so there are still some wind advisories. And right along the coast, we do have some high surf advisories. Right along San Diego County, the beaches here, the high surf advisories continue through early on Friday. Checking on our weather tonight. Clouds will be on the increase. We'll dip down to about 48 degrees. Dry conditions are with us. Ramona's at 43. Mount Laguna's at 46. And El Cajon, 47. Looking at our weather for Wednesday, remaining dry. Temperatures stay above average here. And we'll enjoy temperatures hovering in the mid to upper 70s. Perhaps a little bit of cooling trying to sneak in the coast later in the day with a few more clouds here. As we look ahead to Thursday, well, we'll start to see the cooling spreading inland a little bit, but we are still dry. And as we check on our extended forecast, you can see how temperatures do drop off from Wednesday to Thursday along the coast. A lot of clouds Friday, and perhaps a shower in the area. Inland sections, we'll see temperatures drop off a good 5 degrees, further cooling into Friday. Clouds around. Could there be a shower in the area? Perhaps. And then into the mountains, turning a little cooler. And we'll see temperatures dropping into the 40s over the weekend. And in the deserts, we'll be looking at some dry conditions, temperatures dropping off just a smidgen over the weekend. And for KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Mark Mancuso.
The CDC might start recommending people wear N95 or KN95 masks as opposed to other types. The Washington Post cites an unnamed official who says the agency is considering the change. He says Omicron spreads so easily that the CDC is looking at masks with better filtration. The need to wear facial coverings consistently and correctly is also a consideration. If you need to buy an at-home COVID test, your health insurance will have to pay for it. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services says starting on Saturday, private insurers will be required to cover 8 tests per month per person. They can cover the cost up front or through a claim reimbursement. Reporter Mandy Gaither shows us how at-home COVID tests work.
Masking, social distancing, and of course, vaccination and boosters are the best ways to slow the spread of COVID-19.
It is troubling to see these numbers, to see how high the cases are going.
But knowing whether you're infected is another weapon against this pandemic. That's where COVID testing comes in. You may be able to avoid long lines if you have access to a rapid test, have been exposed, and don't have symptoms but want to know if you're infected. The CDC recommends you take the test at or close to day 5 after you're exposed to the coronavirus. 500 million free at-home COVID-19 tests will soon be distributed.
We will set up a free and easy system
including a new website to get these tests out to Americans.
So how do the tests work? Dr. Sanjay Gupta explains.
So there's a swab. Most of us are familiar with these by now. So about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch in each nostril, 5 big circles. Put it in the bottom hole here, shut it, and now we wait.
Read the test results only within the time frame specified in the instructions.
Here's my COVID test results now. No COVID. So between this test result and me being fully vaccinated, I already feel a lot safer.
If the test is positive, the CDC advises isolation to continue for 10 days after symptoms started. If negative, quarantine can stop, but the agency recommends wearing a mask around others until day 10. For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
The legend of Betty White is alive and well on social media, and the San Diego Humane Society is jumping on the hashtag Betty White Challenge by waiving adoption fees. Fees will be waived for all adult animals through this Sunday, January 16th. In honor of what would have been Betty White's 100th birthday, the organization is hoping to find homes for 100 animals by the 17th. The pandemic has led to more animals in shelters across the country as spay and neuter efforts have been paused. The San Diego Humane Society is open on Tuesday through Sunday from 10 to 6 p.m. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley. And by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.